Welcome everyone. Akasha here, Nan Akasha from BlissLife Podcast. And I'm excited to bring you another amazing healing modality and some powerful tips for you to use right now in this global healing series on energy medicine. So as you know, right now we are all in lockdown. If you're listening to this later, you will have known what's going to happen, but we don't. We're in uncertainty and fear. And every day there's something new about health or perhaps finances that are challenging, staying at home, being with people that I know some people who are sheltered in with their ex. Imagine that. So today we are really blessed because this is somebody I met many years ago and I have enormous respect for. There's been absolutely nothing that I have ever seen or heard come from Reese that isn't 100% solid and from pure love. I think you're going to really enjoy this. Rhys Thomas is the founder of the Rhys Thomas Institute, and I'm going to read you what that means. It's of energy healing, of course. It's a 3-year life mastery training where he teaches 4 unique dimensional healing paths that lead you to experience your soul essence, align with your unique purpose, optimize all your chakras, your energy centers, and embody your soul joyfully. And today we're going to talk about the 4 steps to heal your energy body and actually get to experience some healing. So thank you so much for being here, Reese.
Nan, it's my pleasure.
Wonderful to see you again.
Great to see you.
So share with us a little bit about how you came to do this work and what is it that is happening in the world now that's different, that you see something that's missing from a lot of healing work.
So my journey was a lot like most people. I grow up trying to be a good man, you try to be a good woman, and there's rules around that. And one of the things for men was you have to be a success and a driven. And so I sort of probably at about 8 or 9 years old, I realized I can't just be out here in the space doing things. I got to be focused. I've got to be, and that's when I started competing at athletics and all the way through, I'm always pushing myself. I became successful in the tennis industry. I played competitive tennis, professional tennis, and then was in the tennis industry. And then I was studying martial arts for 25 years. And I was doing all these things, and I was successful at every level. But in my 30s, I realized that even though I had everything that would sort of make you think, well, you should be happy, I just felt empty. I just felt like there was this emptiness and I wasn't getting fulfilled, even though the things that I did were good and I was doing good in the world and I was helping people and coaching people and all these things. And it wasn't until I was 39 and I sort of had been looking at some energy work. I hadn't really done much up to that point. It was sort of Wayne Dyer and Deepak Chopra and that kind of stuff. But then I was like, oh, and I ran into Barbara Brennan's Hands of Light book and started studying that, started working with the healer, and then realized, wow, there's like this whole dimension that's like that this pragmatic, driven, be a success in the world person had never even run into yet. And so that led me within about a year or so to joining a 4-year training in energy healing, which is what I run right now. And because it was so transformative in my life. And I realized that there were who I thought I was, who I thought I was supposed to be, was not who I was. And there was, a man, I had grown up to believe that a man should be driven and focused and honest and all of that, which I was, but it wasn't the core of me. The core of me was this kid that was growing up that had these crazy dreams and literally would teleport myself to different places and be able to experience these strange things, which I never told anybody about. And I figured, because I always thought, who would care about that? But I was telling them how they could Tony Robbins it better and doing this. So I was like doing all that stuff. And then I find out after all this, after I do the work and I realize that I am what it's called a creative idealist rather than a driven person. I'm sort of the one that downloads these visions and things. I realized that that's all anybody wanted to hear from me. You know, they didn't want to hear what I thought they wanted to. You know, I had, and I was really good as a tennis pro, but I found that that what I'd end up teaching people was about their soul. Even on the tennis court, I was like, you know, you got to hit that thing from a part of you that isn't hitting the ball. And I was trying, you know, it was more like the Zen of tennis was what I was doing. And in my life, in my martial arts, I found the same thing in the martial arts, all this work to become a great fighter, and then realizing that, oh, all I really wanted to do was connect more with people rather than have a battle with them. And so that led to, you know, 4 years of training in that, and then working in the same school for a number of years, teaching, and then realizing that that I saw it even differently than this work that had originally come from Rosalind Briere, went through Barbara Brennan, went through my teacher, and then to me. I saw that there was something big missing. There was these 4 dimensions of healing, and most people are very clear on the first dimension, which is the body, and you know, and if my body's got a problem, I gotta deal with that at some physical level, take a pill, go to the doctor, do these sorts of things much more allopathically, or get a chiropractic adjustment, get massage, something physical on the body. And then as we, you know, as time went on, these Eastern concepts of chakras started coming in, and energy. And when we shifted from seeing ourselves on one dimension to seeing ourselves on the chakra dimension as well, which is the second dimension, we also saw ourselves in 7 different planes of reality on that. And we were able to see that this physical pain in my body originates in the energy field first. And so if we deal with the energy field, we can actually create more permanent change in the body. Whereas if the problem in the energy field and our belief systems and our you know, how we hold these chakras, how we hold them either open or closed or protected or however they are, if we don't change that, the body keeps recurring, the illness keeps recurring over and over and over again. And so right now we're in this phase of shifting from seeing the body as sort of like the whole enchilada to being sort of the last stop on the train rather than the main stop, right? It's the body's the last stop on the train. And so now we've studied chakras in almost every healing modality. And I know you and I sit on the same board, and they're working with there's over 8,000 healing modalities just in the United States alone. And in some way, they all are focused on the chakras. They're focused on, and they often have 1 or 2 chakras that they excel in. And so in full spectrum healing, the type of work that I learned, it's very integrative. So there's almost all the healing modalities, which would mean all the chakras, the full spectrum, have to be taught for you to be able to be a full spectrum healer. You have to be able to, you know, you can't just say, okay, I've got, I love Reiki. It's fantastic. Anytime there's a love connection or break, Reiki is all about the heart. And if that's what the person needs, Reiki works great. But if they have a physical, emotional, or self-esteem issue, Reiki is not as good as other modalities, because Reiki really works on the heart and the relationships and the self-love and the sort of, and it's perfect for that. So full spectrum healing, it integrates, so that we have healings that integrate, you know, Reiki type of energy, you know, emotion code type of energy in the second chakra. You know, each of these things, you know, the allopathic, you know, basically the bioenergetics, the stretching, how you use the body, how you breathe in the body, all of these things get integrated in there. And so now I was watching this happening, and I was realizing, God, everybody's working on the chakras, but people still aren't having permanent level healings. They make a shift and they fall back, and they make a shift and they fall back. And so I started noticing that this other dimension that I've been studying for 25 years in martial arts, which is what's called the Hara line, or the life purpose line, was actually a bridge between so the 3 dimensions are the body, the chakras, and then this life purpose line, which is like a central gravity line that creates the poles out of the ethers, out of the soul quality, form. And so then the fourth level is would be the soul level itself. And of course, we are, healers all know that when someone has got, they may be well into second, third stage cancer, and all of a sudden it just disappears. We know that what they did was they touched their soul just for one moment. Their whole story fell apart because whatever, this was a sort of a betrayal of God, a betrayal of this, whatever they believed in, they stopped believing in. And in that moment, they were actually able to contact their soul quality within them, which literally, when it comes through, can recreate your whole life in a totally different way. It just can, boom, and healing is effortless for the soul because it's never been sick. When you remember so fully in every one of your cells what it feels like not to be sick, you transform. And so I was noticing, okay, so the goal is kind of to get this body to connect with the soul, but I didn't see it happening regularly, because when you open the chakras up, those doorways go to the soul. They open to that consciousness within you that's infinite. And yet after a person has a healing, maybe they had a healing on, maybe their ex, maybe they're having trouble with, dealing with that person, and they're angry about it and it's causing them pain, and they're having, asthma over it, or they're having some sort of allergies around it. And so then they do the healing, and boom, all of a sudden the asthma's gone, the allergies are gone, and they're feeling great. But as they walk out of the healing session, the ex drives by in a car and they're like, whoa, right back into it again. Because the chakras don't stay open by themselves, because they serve this deeper purpose, this life purpose line. And we all have it that runs right down the middle. And it's actually this vertical current that the chakras sort of lock into. So there's a front and a back aspect on each chakra, and they kind of lock in there. And what I realized was, so if you open the chakra, but are unaware of your purpose for having a chakra open, and that feeling that you get, what comes out of the chakra when it's open, is a truth for you. And so many people sort of say, oh, it's just this wonderful feeling, rather than saying, oh, that's me. And when the healers can shift the person through all these 800 modalities to be open, and then add to that what I teach in my book, Discover Your Purpose, which of these 5 soul qualities you have, a specific set of sort of like, are you a creative person? Are you are you an achiever? Are you a deep feeler? Are you a caretaker? Or are you a leader? And when you open those chakras up, what you will feel is specifically that truth within you. And when every time you do a healing, you feel more and more and more and more of it, it builds an awareness, rather than, oh, my chakras are open, I feel so good, this is so nice, I'm so free. And then boom, I got to go back to the healer again, because I'm not in charge of this anymore. Just like in allopathic medicine, we have to go to the doctor when we're sick because we don't know even how it happened. The doctor somehow is this genius that knows how to do it and gives you a pill and can fix it or can do surgery on it. And so we're disempowered by that system. Yeah. And now we move into healing work, which is supposed to be empowering the person. But when the person opens up that chakra and then you don't give them something to anchor it on, they become just as dependent on the healer as in allopathic. And so the next dimension, the third dimension of this, is to become really clear that this vertical line of energy through us has on it specific contracts, a physical contract, a spiritual a physical contract for everything that you'll ever deal with, like your star chart. It's like, it's like every moment of every day, your physical life purpose point, which the martial artists call a dantian, literally is manifesting you like a star chart every second of every day. It's like goes, here you are, here you are, here you are. And this is, with all the stars and galaxies and everything, you're here to do something important. We need you. We can't have you thinking, I have no idea who I am, I'll just go, I'll wander off. We need you to focus on being what all your gifts. And then all those gifts on that center have a point that's like your contracts, like the emerald tablet. So this is the emerald tablet right here over the heart, where you know, it's like, oh my God, that's why I feel that way. That's why I have this body I have. That's why I have these visions, the way I think, the way I do things. And then the final point is right at the base of the skull on that line, where you get it, where it's sort of like, that's the enlightenment point. And enlightenment isn't, walking with angels and doing things like that. Enlightenment is knowing who you are right now and why it's so important for you to be in the world. So that's sort of like, that's kind of like what I realized as that I was like, this is the next generation. This is what I teach in my school. And I know that there are other sort of personality profiling systems out there, Enneagram, Myers-Briggs, DISC, and there's a whole bunch of new ones that are coming forward. But the issue with some of those is that they're very mentally based. They're based on behavior. Mm-hmm. And if I had taken that back when I was behaving like an achiever, I would have convinced myself I was an achiever. I would have agreed with the test. The test would have told me I was an achiever. I would have agreed with that. And then I would have then been even more stuck in being the person that I was supposed to be rather than the person that I really am. And so, as you know, Nan, it's like you have to feel who you are. And you can't think who you are. That is almost always wrong. But as you do more and more energy work and you feel more and more of who you are, and then you have a guide who can say, oh yeah, that's another piece of this quality. It makes a huge difference in how healings set with you and sit with you in your life.
Well, and that's kind of the key, right? Is to be able to take the transformation or the shift that you experience in an energy healing, whether it's a chiropractor, an energy healer, like a touch person, Reiki, light body healing, whatever it is, and ground it, anchor it, right? And take it deeper and not just be like, oh, I feel good now, however. And I think that's a big thing that's certainly been huge for a lot of us for many years now, but is really rising to the surface, is you have to take responsibility for your life, your body, your health. And yes, find the doctors or find the healers, but overall the consciousness is raising. Everything is going so much faster. We're evolving. And this is the time for that. It's funny you say we can't have you sitting around going, I don't know who I am. I love that, because right now, as people are sort of settling into the situation and some of the initial fear is gone, there's this sense of just getting through it. And I really feel it's important right now to start shifting into, this is a global shift, a global metamorphosis, the earth and us and everything else on it, evolution point. What do we want to become? What do we want it to be like, and get out of survival? So that's a great point, because people might be doing some, chanting meditation or some sound healing or some other stuff. I love it all. And to feel better and then go back into their life. So share with us, I know you have a system in your book that you teach at your school too, that you created. Yep. On life purpose profiles. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
So that's interesting to say, like, you're doing the energy work and the bridge, that being the bridge to the soul. Is that similar to your sushumna or your light antenna or your breathing tube or some of the other terms?
Yes. Yes. That is that energy. And interestingly, science has no idea what gravity is.
Yes, it's
quite. They have no idea. They actually, scientists, the one thing that holds the whole universe together is gravity, and the scientists, these brilliant scientists, have no idea what it is. All they know now is that, and recently they've just come out by saying that they now know for sure that 95% of what makes up our universe is both it's both dark matter and dark energy.
Yeah.
And they have no idea what it is.
Yeah.
They can't measure it. They can't figure it out. They just see the result of it. Okay. And so 95% of our universe, our scientists have no idea what it is. So why do we assume that the scientists are right about anything?
Exactly. And then what I love is they come out and say, this is the truth. But I'm saying, but your entire field is a history of never really knowing. It's just, this is the current truth, you know? I'm like, whoa. Yeah.
Right. And so I have a belief, and I, after doing, after running my school now, I've been in this 20 years, that vertical line that the martial artists train just to be great fighters and to have more inner peace, so they can do what they need to do. That line is actually where the soul energy, which is totally the void, the non-form, bridges into form. And so it's literally each of us, the intention of our soul to create us right now creates a vertical line. And of course, part of it's earth-based. So part of it goes in the core of the earth and part of it connects up to spirit. And that line itself is what gravity is. And so they're like, well, where does all the gravity come from? Well, it comes from the soul's intention to bring something into form. And so when we understand that this vertical line is a contract to pull very specific particles, very specific ways that they're going to form atoms, those atoms form molecules, those molecules form, and they have a very specific emotion within them. And that emotion within them creates a very unique set of chakras that are open to that core quality of emotion and of power. And so your chakras, if you don't know your purpose, you don't understand your chakras, even though you know how to open them and close them, because there's lots of techniques out there to do that. You won't know why you have the chakras that you have. And so that's one of the things that I work with a lot in the program is, let's go through every one of your chakras and let's figure out how it works. So what I can do right now is, let's do a little chakra exercise, just like one, if we were just going to do with one chakra. Okay. And if we're going to begin the process of what would the first steps be to figuring out what your chakras really are here to do. Okay. So the first thing with a chakra is to understand that. So let's just start with the first chakra. So first chakra, I always say that every person that's born has an Olympic sport that they can get a gold medal in, right? They have their own Olympic sport that they can get a gold medal in. And you have to figure out what you are going to gold in, right? So my trying to be a tough guy as a martial artist, trying to be a super businessman, and trying to be the leader and the achiever and doing all that stuff, which I do have some of that in me, but I was really am like this creative sort of like, downloading type of person. I don't have a body for that. And so in all these years in the martial arts, I went to the best martial arts school, one of the best in the world, and that's in Boston. And I really, 25 years of working at that, I really became a decent fighter. But there were people that were just born to it. And I had to work at it, and I had to really work at it. And what ended up happening after all that time was I ended up realizing that this vertical line that I'd been training so diligently wasn't to fight, it was to heal. So this is another piece that almost all master martial artists become healers, because that vertical line is what people forget. And when you master that vertical line of energy, and and you feel your purpose inside, no matter what you do for someone else, they'll feel that you know your purpose within you. And when they feel comfortable that it's okay to know your purpose, they open up to theirs as well. Okay. So where do we start? We start with the chakras. And so the first chakra is, you'd want to look at your body and say, what kind of body do I have? Could I play pro football? Am I supposed to be a long distance runner? Am I, what types of things would this body do? And is it super sensitive? So we have bodies that are very creative, very tall and thin and very creative. We have bodies that are super soft, like flow yoga people. And then you have bodies that are strong, sort of square, apple-shaped in the middle, big, strong legs, and they support everybody. They caretake people. They hug them. They're big huggers, and they're always hot. Like they're always throwing the covers off. They're always hot. And then, or do you have a body that's like super driven and achievement oriented, and is trim and lean and successful and focused, right? Do you have that kind of body? Or do you have what we call the leader body, which is a person who's probably been in many shapes and sizes throughout their life?
That's me.
Because their job is to sort of find the energies that motivate other people. And so when they enter a world where they have to be a great, a strong, compassionate person for other people and helping other people, they take on the body shape of the team player, but they do it to lead, or they have to be like the Richard Bransons in the world, and then they create that achiever body. And so, or they're just the movie stars and the sort of like the people that are totally motivated, inspirational for us. And they have those very hourglass shapely kind of bodies to them. And so each one, or maybe like a leader that's a Steve Jobs would have like the thinker body. So, very tall and thin. And so the first thing you just do is you have to say, okay, so what is this? Why do I have this body? And then you have to listen to it. So that's the first chakra. So your first chakra would be, I gotta come to terms with the fact that if I'm trying to be this, and I don't have that, the mind, the emotions, the body for that, then I've got to take a look at what I really do have. And so let's do this. Let's do a little exercise.
I got a minute. Let's just tell anybody who may not know what the first chakra is.
Okay.
That's the root, right? It's where you're sitting.
Yep.
Down here, and it has a lot to do. Well, you share with what you feel that chakra is mainly about.
Well, the first chakra, as I was just saying, the first chakra is your body itself. It's how you perceive the world of solid matter. So it's a dimension of consciousness within you that is physically solid and is aware of everything else that's physically solid. So its job is to process what's solid, what's around you in the world. The closest people to you in the world are your family. And those are the most solid objects that you grew up with as a child. So when you came into the world, the most solid object that you had was your mother, hopefully, who was holding you. And so family is in there as well. So the first chakra is your tribe, your tribe of origin, how you take your place in that tribe, and then your physical body and gifts within that physical body. Okay.
Okay.
So let's do a first chakra exercise here, where we're going to do two levels of psychic, right? One's going to be clairsentient, and then the second one's going to be clairvoyant. All right. And these are
feeling and seeing.
So right. So clairsentient is to feel, and it also, and clairaudient. So you're going to feel and listen at the same time. And then the second one we're going to do, we're going to see. All right. So let's just start. I'm going to play. I think let me just make sure that my sound is still on for you.
It says so.
Yep. Okay, good. So let's just try this. Okay. All right. So you're hearing that okay? All right. So take a deep breath in, everybody. And the first part of chakra work is to bring your attention into that part of your body. So right down at the base of your sit bones, right where you're sitting, really at the base of your body, right between your legs. And just bring your attention to that place and feel what it feels like. And I want you to bring your entire level of sensing into that part of your body. What does it feel like to be in that part of your body. And feel that in that space, there is space. What kind of density do you feel? And notice that there's a deep space within that center where it actually emerges out of. And then you can expand that field to feel your entire body right now. Feel your body pulsing. Feel how solid you are. Feel how the first chakra, which is the earth underneath you, the chair underneath you, is pushing up as you push down. And it supports you in being right here, right now. And so I want you to go into that first chakra and just sit there and ask your first chakra right now, what is it saying to you? What are the words that come to your mind as you sit in that energy of solid world, where you are, what's around you, what your body feels like? What voice does it speak to you with? And notice whose voice that is. Is that your voice, or is there a different voice you can hear from your first chakra? And then I want you to bring your eyes, your vision, right into that center at the base of your spine. And the eyes of your first chakra perceive out into the world. All of the materials, all of the gifts of form that you are being offered, all of your resources. Every person you know is a resource. Every object you can see is a resource that grounds you, connects you, tells you where to go next. See through the eyes of your first chakra. See your house. See the rooms. And sense how that chakra connects with each of those solid objects. Notice if your house is a bit of a clutter. How does that feel? How do you see that? How does that serve your sense of presence in the world? perceive the world as literally touching you. The particles and atoms that make up your body meet the particles and atoms that make up air, which meet the particles and atoms that make up your computer or your table or your chair. See if you can feel and see that connection and the importance of the world being solid and you using it as a resource to live your purpose. To love where you are right now, to see what's possible for you in the physical world right now. And now as you're feeling your first chakra, ask yourself, the kind of presence you have, is it super creative and connected to spirit? Is it a deep feeler, like a puddle of water that moves and has emotion and connects through gentle touch? Is it solid and warm and loving and caring and focused on being there for other people? Knowing how you're here to be in the world or be with other people is the knowing of the first chakra. Or do you feel your body in a strong balance and wisdom that you can be an achiever, a knowledgeable person that supports others in doing better in their lives? Or do you really feel that body is strong and dynamic and sort of as a leadership role, something you need to inspire other people through? Feel that. And then when you're ready, come on back.
I don't want to come back.
Nice, huh? Here, I can just, what I'll do is, let me adjust this a little bit. We can just keep this playing in the background so everybody can stay in the, we'll just make it a little bit lower. All right. So what we did there was, there's a tricky, it's like, of course, spirit doesn't make it easy. It's got, we have to feel our way through life. Life is, we were just talking about this yesterday in my 30-day program, that every moment of your life is the dark night of your soul, because nobody knows what's coming. Anybody who has worked through their life and made it so solid that they can guarantee that it never changes lives in constant fear that it's going to change. The person who realizes that I have no idea what's happening and I have faith that I'll know who to bring to this problem, bring to this situation, bring to this joy, bring to this pleasure. I'll always bring this person to me. That's the key. And so it's a tough, so what we had to do there with the chakra was we had to go into the first chakra. We had to really get to know it. And this was just a real quickie, just a quick, easy one. But you need to sense how that part of your body, that energy and that part of your energy field feels and then speaks. Because I also have a theory that the voice in your head is not coming from what science would have you believe, which are the neurosynapses that are hardwired together. And there certainly is some of that because the brain has its own set of neurons. whatever, 100 billion neurons. But your first chakra has 100 billion neurons too. And it sees and thinks and hears and remembers, and it has a voice. And that voice is just an emotion that comes up that gets translated into your head as a word. So that's what we're practicing there. Rather than your words telling your first chakra what it is, we need the first chakra to tell your brain and your mind what it is. Because then, and people that have chronic voices in their heads that they can never get rid of, they try to do it through therapy, they try to do it through this. It's because it's a wounded chakra that says, I'll never be good enough. You'll never be good enough. What's the matter with you? Why do you even bother? That voice in your head doesn't come from the head, so you can't fix it from the head. You have to fix it in the third chakra. So in the first chakra, that voice is really important to realize, oh, that had a very specific voice. It's like, mine said, I'm alive. I was just like, oh, good. And I've been struggling with a little bit of back pain here the last few days. And, I was thinking, oh, it's going to say ouch, or it's going to say, I'm not, but it didn't. It said, don't ever forget, I'm alive. I am so alive. This body is so alive. It's like a little bit of pain here and there. That doesn't mean anything. Concentrate, put your attention on what's alive, not what's hurting. And so that was a beautiful sort of like, it's like you get that image. What did yours say to you?
Oh, well, it was interesting because at first it was dark and empty.
Yep.
And very much like an abandoned basement in an old building that had it was disgusting. And so I stood there for a while, and then it things like you're not wanted and abandonment, those were the things I was hearing at first. I was adopted, so I was given up for adoption, and my mother adopted me, actually disowned me at one point, and so that's not a surprise. And
you
then
you got the orphan archetype right there in the first chakra, right?
Yeah.
But what that means, I mean, the orphan archetype is a great archetype because you can make family anywhere you go.
Yeah. Well, and eventually I realized that I have experiences that other people don't have, and I need to respect and appreciate that I have a perspective, because my daughter that I had from my body died, and I adopted twins who are now 22. So I don't know what it's like to be in a family that's like me, or to have children that are like me, so I have this very unique perspective. And then I just, so I stood there, and then I asked for the windows to open, and this sounds weird, but it was like we were in the top of the Statue of Liberty, those windows in the crown, like that. And I was way up high on something, and there was a Buddha, just a giant Buddha. And eventually then the walls opened, and I was sitting in a pile of presents and gifts wrapped in boxes, like gifts. And and let's see, was there anything that it said? It wasn't you're blessed, maybe it was you're gifted or something like that, like something around the gift thing.
So wow, so you've totally got the whole story. I mean, a lot of people, they just go down there, it's like, oh, it felt it either, because some people will feel it as very much spacious, like you did, because that means you're here to really deal with the upper chakras more, the more expanded, your first chakra may be a lot more expanded than most energetically. And so there's a lot of space, and but you also experience the emptiness of family, of tribe, and yet that leads you to ultimately, and of course, the Statue of Liberty is where immigrants come in, and it's like the aliens come in, okay? And so you came into the world sort of like there was no place for you. You were an alien wherever you went, and so but after that you realize that this gift that you have of finding a home, of finding a relationship, of creating that, it ends up being an enormous gift to you and the world. So I think that's beautiful. And so what a great, and that's how, you get to know your first chakra. And so so that was your vision. And so you've got a strong vision. So you went right to vision, right away. But it's also the presence of it. What did it feel like to be your body? What did it, how did that?
Initially it was very sad. It was like, that sense of abandonment. I'm not good enough. I'm not wanted. And everything was dreary and like old sewer, thing.
Right.
But it was interesting because I've been working on myself for 30-some years, right? So, so I just stood there because I felt the emotion and the sadness and wanted to cry, but I didn't buy into it. Like I just stood there and went, oh yeah, I get that. And,
there was another piece that I didn't do just because we only have so much time, which is what are you sensing is blocking that chakra? And so that's another, so you'd feel it, listen to it, see it, and then see what blocks the vision of that chakra. What does that? And that's what we call a vow. You as a child, you vowed to never feel worthy, to never feel like I deserve to have a family. And yet on the other side of that vow, on the other side of that vision that you had, was the fact that if that was such a huge value to you, then you're a person who naturally makes family in the world, who naturally finds her tribe, so to speak, and is fearlessly willing to do it.
Yeah. Well, I became a people pleaser. Most of my life I was a big achiever like you.
Yeah.
I had the athletic body. I was all Europe in basketball and all this kind of stuff. And everything I did for much of my life was because I, was never good enough. I wanted to be good enough for my dad and good enough for blah, 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 and all those things. And so, like you said, it's something you can do and you can achieve. But as a kid, I was talking to the fairies and butterflies and annoying my sister. And then you have to shut that down. And so what's interesting, because I was standing in the empty, dark, disgusting space, and I finally just said, okay, time to see. I like a view. I like windows. I like light. I like air movement. And so that was when it was just, it turned into, instead of like concrete walls, into those strange windows. And at first it reminded me of the Planet of the Apes at the end, when the Statue of Liberty's like laying down, because right outside the windows was this enormous Buddha, but I was way up above the earth. And it was very much like the sensation of, oh yes, that's one part that I'm playing, but let's see something more. I want to see more. What's behind that? What's underneath that? Which has been my question for many decades.
Well, and also, as you're sort of asking yourself, which of those five are you? Creative, deep feeler, caretaking, leader, or achiever and leader. The Buddha was a leader. And after you access that Buddha energy, then you got the presence. And so when you share, as you create your life around that understanding that I am a leader. I'm a spiritual leader. So as soon as your chakra actually looked out to see the world, it saw, oh, there's the Buddha. That's so much more fun than my wounding, right? And that's my truth. The truth is that you're here to be a Buddha for so many, a spiritual teacher, a spiritual calling, and you didn't pick Jesus, you picked the Buddha. So it's a little bit more, the Buddha's the illusion, right? So the Buddha's all about the upper chakras, whereas Christ is more about the heart healing. You've got Buddha, and so you are a 6th chakra psychic. And of course you're going to see that, that's going to be your, at the physical, like, who am I here on the planet? That Buddha was saying, that's it. And then of course you give all these energetic and physical gifts and receive simultaneously. So you're both, when you're that. So that's really cool. That was awesome. And and amazingly, if you do that practice in each of your chakras, you begin the process of giving each one a voice, giving each one a vision. and remembering that tomorrow you can do the exact same thing, or 5 minutes from now we can do the exact same thing, exact same bowls playing, and you'll have a different message that'll come through. You'll have a different vision, but the key with knowing which of the 5 profiles you are, which would then solidify that gravity, by knowing how each of these feel, how it builds on that all the time. So that's the whole goal, is to each time you do this, it's like, okay, if that were a leader, and then you have to really watch yourself. And if I'm a leader, people follow me. People want me to tell them things. They want to be supported. They want to be inspired by me. Okay. And so then you have to, and then like you said, you played a lot of time in your life as a caretaker. And so it's a high value for you. And so that leader probably caretakes and snuggles and holds people a lot differently than I do, where I'm the creative idealist first, like, woo, but then I'm a leader. So I'm gonna bring concepts more than the snuggling and the coddling. It's more to me like, okay, once you feel it, get out there and do it. Let's go. Come on. That's my martial artist. It's like, once you figure it out, you don't have a choice. That's spirit saying, you want more information? You better get out and take care of what I just gave you. So it's like, let's embody this right now.
Yeah. Well, I love hugs and touches and all that. Yes, absolutely. And yet, interestingly, though, I can relate to all 5 of those. I can relate to many different body types throughout my life. And one of the things that occurred to me that I want to get your take on is the doubt, right? So this was a huge one for me back in the early days. Was things were much slower then too, as I was learning to meditate, learning to move energy and all the rest of it, was that doubt, like, oh, I just made that up, right? Oh, I just made that up. And I remember you were saying something in the process we just did, and all I'm seeing out these windows is it was so high that I could barely see the ground, right? Yep. You could see atmosphere, maybe a few clouds, and you knew there was something down there. And I noticed how that poor girl in there said, oh, this is wrong. You're supposed to be connecting to your house and your family. You were saying things like that. And that, again, something I've worked on for so long, that I learned to just listen and accept what she says, and then say, no, we're staying where we are to see. How do you help people to deal with that? Because as somebody does this, they may be like, I saw that, but did I really see that? And then they want to analyze it, and the doubt comes up.
Well, I mean, so first of all, it does take time. Because I do a lot of this, and you do a lot of this, we speak more fluent soul. And it takes, what I always say to people is, when you get a vision, look it up. That's either an archetype or a symbol, something that you saw makes, that's an important thing. Looking up the Statue of Liberty, the history of Statue of Liberty, why was that so important? What does it actually do? What's its metaphor in the world? Because energy work is metaphor. It's metaphor. It's not, there's nothing real in it. You're stepping into an archetypal realm when you go into the energy field. And so for you, so what if, what if you are supposed to have, so you were experiencing your first chakra, we're talking about first chakra here, your most grounded place is expanded as big as the planet. You were above the clouds, right? Okay. What if you're here to create a global family? What is it that we're doing right now? This is what you're here to do. You're here to have a big enough picture. Your leader has to be so big that you can create a global family. And I think that's the goal of what we're doing right here, right?
Yeah.
So you just got the realization that my first chakra, not my seventh and seventh chakra, sixth chakra, it's not my thought. My first chakra is so expanded that I create family with someone who's over in Japan right now at the same time, or watching me here. The Germans, the Spanish, they're all watching, and they're all coming together around this. And this is a leader, this is a global leader.
Nice, thank you. You made me tear up. Yeah, yeah, it's phenomenal. This is such totally addictive in a good way to me. This energy work, doing this kind of work, talking to yourself, talking to your energy centers,
Yep.
having the capacity to think past the concrete world, which we really don't have a choice about anymore, for
Right.
sure. So, oh, this is so good. So, just out of curiosity, one more thing.
Yep.
Since we're in the coronavirus evolutionary transformation, let's call it,
Yep.
um, and corona means crown. And so I really do firmly believe that this is some kind of an up leveling, that we're having some major transformation that's been prophesized by many of the ancients right now, and that it has to do with that. I call it fusing, your inner eye and your crown, so that you can have a permanent, clear, flowing connection to what you call your soul or your higher self, or to
Yeah.
that void energy, that infinite field. Um, what would be doing this? Would this be like with the crown chakra? Would this be a good exercise to help to free some of the mental lockdown people have, into the anxiety and fear of what will happen? I don't know. Would it be good to meditate in that area, to tune into what's the global message from this galactic messenger?
Yeah, I mean, I think that any chakra work we do, as we said, of course, this didn't come back in the 80s when nobody knew what a chakra was, right? It came now when a huge part of the population are realizing that that these healing modalities, there wouldn't be 8,000 healing modalities if there weren't millions, hundreds of millions of people doing them.
Yeah.
And so there's hundreds of millions of people that are beginning this shift. And so when you're shifting your consciousness to more energy than matter, which is really the step we're in, and then eventually understanding the chakras, shifting that to these deeper level sort of gravity, just sort of that everything happens. When you can trust that everything's happening for a reason, you can't do that from your body or your chakras, because every time the storm blows, your chakras change. So the chakras in the body really can't have enough solidity within them to know that life purpose line is like a contract that's unbendable, non-negotiable. And to be able to deal with real uncertainty, we have to be really certain about who we are. And to do that, we have to bridge this body into the chakras and do enough work in them that we realize what they do. And so there's I actually just did something yesterday with the Shift Network. I taught one of the healings that we teach in the school. And so the chakras relate to endocrine glands as well. And the endocrine system is the one that sends the hormones. And if you're stressed, and anytime there's a shift in the field, your body has to decide whether it's dangerous or not. And the brain and the pituitary and the hypothalamus and the pineal gland, they all have to sort of get together and decide, is this a good thing? And if not, they send down, we've got to talk about this, or we've got to deal with these people, or we've got to fight about this, or set a boundary, or we need to literally kill, or run. And so right now we have this adversary, this coronavirus, and we have to deal with it. And so the way people tend to deal with crises after they've had a crisis is to run things through their adrenals. So it's like fight or flight. It's like, okay, we gotta all go inside. We have to all fight this thing. We have to all, and then those adrenals are literally running how you respond to everything. After one good wound in your life, you tend to, adrenal overload is one of the biggest problems right now in health. And because people tend to deal with simple issues from there. And so the endocrine system, which starts at the top of the pineal gland, goes to the pituitary, goes to the hypothalamus, down to the thyroid, down to the thyroid, down to the thymus, down to the not gallbladder, the pancreas, and then
Pancreas.
down to the sexual organs, and then finally the last stop is the adrenals. That gets hardwired that every situation is dealt with like it's a crisis. And so people that are living in stress are living with cortisol running through their body all the time. And the truth is that the adrenals should never trigger unless you are literally, unless the knife is literally that far away from you coming at you. That's when the adrenals kick in. The fight or flight, the survival mechanism should happen. To run our lives on the adrenals means that we're pulling all of the energy that should be in the core of the body to make us feel good and feel inner peace and digest the world and connect with people and feel love. It gets all pushed to the outside, out to the muscles where we're getting ready to fight or run. And that's where most people end up living. And so there's a healing that we do where we literally disconnect that whole system and teach you that, so I'll do the last piece of it, which is every time you have something new come into your life, you have to ask yourself from the seventh chakra first, is this a spiritual contract I have? And if it is, you can let it go and deal with it, right? It can go right back out. And then whatever happens, you have to, maybe it's a person you have to deal with or a situation or whatever. But if you can really sense that this is an actual contract, no more complaining about the relationship, no more whining about this or that, no more getting angry at them, no more. It's like, if I get that, I'm just going to deal with it because I don't get to choose those sort of things, right? And then if it's not, if it's like, yeah, this doesn't seem, I don't really feel this as being one of my contracts, comes down to the sixth chakra. And these are, by the way, these are also the glands, and so that in the sixth chakra, you have both the pituitary and the hypothalamus. So they're the biggest troublemakers in the endocrine system because they can easily send down a message that's like, this is danger, 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 red light, red light. Or it can send down like dopamine or, any of these wonderful endorphins that go through our body. They can send one or the other. And so how you think and what messages are getting to your sixth chakra, and if all your chakras are already wounded and sending negative messages up there, you see everything as a negative thing. So it sends the message down to the adrenals and says, kick it in, we're dying, So, but if in that part, we can sort of look at the bigger picture and see, oh, I get it. Yeah, it's Thursday. This guy always shows up on Thursday and runs his car this way. It's like you see this sort of like you look at sort of like the bigger picture of, oh, how this works. You just let it go. It's just a Thursday thing. It's not like for everything. I'm realizing that. So then you can come back to peace again. And then you deal with whatever it is. You maybe shut your door, your window, whatever it is, if his car is loud or whatever. And then if that doesn't work, and now it's actually a problem that you can't deal with from just seeing the big picture, it comes down to your fifth chakra, the thyroid, where it's now, you have to speak it. So you have to say, hey, can you shut your car off? Or why, or somebody's at the door knocking on the door. And you're like, who the hell is it? And it's like, what do you want? And you have to talk. And then if that resolves the problem, it just goes right back out the top. It's like, oh, he was just trying to deliver a package. That's why I kept ringing the doorbell 800 times. Because he's trying to, oh, okay, I got it. No, I'm all done. And then you just deal with whatever that is at that level. But if that doesn't solve it, the person's at the door and they're not going to go away and they're not there with a package, and there's no obvious reason for them to be there, and they are not convincing you that they should be there, then you have to go down to the thymus, where our immune system is, right? Where we're actually going to have to decide what's toxic and what's not toxic for us in our lives. And so is this person toxic or not? Do I have to say no to this relationship? So the heart chakra, the fourth chakra has to decide. Or does it turn out this person's like my long lost brother that's actually standing at the door, and I'm actually, oh my God, this is, come on in. And then if it is my long lost brother, then boom, goes right back out, and it's all good. We deal with that from there. But if that now all of a sudden the person is now walking into the room and they're putting pressure on you and you don't have any idea. Now we have to get out of the third chakra where you have to set a boundary. Okay, where the sweetness of life is where the pancreas is going to tell you the sweetness of life, and this is sour. This is not good. So it knows that you want to be loved and taken care of, and if that's not going that way, then we have to deal with that. and you'll say, no, you're not going to come in here, and you're going to set a boundary at the third chakra. Like, you and I are separate, and we're going to stay separate. And so then that could end it. The person walks away, and you leave, and you just go from, wow, good, I set that boundary. But then if it goes further, you know, that scenario just goes further. Now the they've not only come in the room, but they now have grabbed a hold of you, and now you're in the sexual glands. That's that where you wrestle with life. Okay, the second chakra is literally where you are in contact with life, and you have to get your needs met. Okay, and you know, and if the person comes in and grabs a hold of you and gives you a big hug and says, "Oh, this is a hugogram," you know, you're like, "Oh, okay, great, no problem." It's like, "Wow, I was so scared. I thought you were trying to kill me." And then it goes away, right? But if the person's actually there trying to hurt you, that's when, and only when, the adrenals should trigger. That's the only time the adrenals should trigger, because at that point it's life or death, and you either kill or survive or run. Yeah. Okay? So the reality is, if we ran our lives, if we understood the chakras well enough and understood our chakras well enough, because everybody's got a different set of chakras that go along with their purpose, and we ran our stresses through our lives in that way, we would probably trigger our adrenals once or twice in an entire lifetime. Yeah. But most people trigger their adrenals 50 times a day. Yeah. So and adrenaline in the body kills the body. It is the worst thing you can do to your body, is to have cortisol in your body. A real fight or flight situation should be dealt with, done, and 15 minutes later, the body sends out the endorphins that then let the body relax again. You come back to homeostasis. But this problem right now is we're being presented with this virus at a global sort of way. Like the media is creating this monster in our lives that we can't actually deal with at that fight or flight level, because it's an invisible opponent. Yes. And so it never actually, as long as we believe that it's out there, it's already out there to get us, we have to stay in this fear, fight or flight, and we'll stay triggering those adrenals, sending the adrenaline and cortisol into our body over and over and over again, worrying all the time, rather than actually coming down, like you were saying, and realizing, if you can actually realize, oh my God, this is the evolution of humanity. This is the evolution of how we do business. Okay, if I'm okay with that, then whether I get the illness or not, or what I do with my business, all of a sudden becomes something that's, oh, of course, you know, this is what goes along with that. But if we're standing in fear and we're letting the media and, you know, and all of these, you know, which we have constantly bombarding us, everybody's trying to find out about it, and how many people are dead, and how many of this, and skewing all of the statistics and twisting it up so that people will stay in fear, because fearful people will do whatever you tell them to do. We need to gain back that inner power inside of ourselves. And the only way I know how to do it is what I teach in my school, which are, you've got to know what profile you are. You have to know which of those 5 you are. And then you have to really feel inside of that, how does a leader now deal with this coronavirus? How does an achiever now deal with this coronavirus? What did they do? What would I do if I were, and what does the creative idealist do? Okay, so I come up with these spiritual solutions to this problem, and you know, and that's how I creatively lead, because those are my top two: is my creator, my leader. What does the caretaker do? The caretaker volunteers at the hospital, right? You know, and the deep feeler helps people realize that you know, the people that are losing and have all this grief, they help people understand that this is a transition, and that it's okay, and we can you'll get loved and supported throughout this. Right? So we to really solve the problems in the world, people have to stop thinking that they're all the same, and understanding that each of us have this sort of tribe we're in, this bigger tribe: leadership, caretaking, achievement, deep feeling, and creativity. And when everybody on the planet is doing what they're supposed to be doing, living in their quality, we will have so many more resources, because right now men are supposed to either be leaders or achievers, and women are supposed to be either caretakers or deep feelers, and nobody's supposed to be one of these creative, crazy people. Right? Nobody wants to be that. We're all supposed to be the archetype of what we're supposed to be. And so with so many people not knowing who they are, they listen to the media. They listen to these stories about the pandemic. They prepare themselves to get sick, or to have things lost, rather than, okay, up the upper chakras, it's like, let's take a good view at this. All right, this is what's happening. What's my place in it? Where do I fit? And then from there, you just do it, and you stop complaining about it. You don't fight against it. You just say, we can't fight the fact that the world's doing what it's doing. What we can do is we can grow from that. And if we do that, and this is like a really big one, if we actually do practice within us, and everybody starts practicing that practice of, I'm going to do what I'm called to do right now from inside, rather than from what I'm being told to do, that will change the world. Because right now, since most people live in fear, most people are living in the adrenal sort of just making it from paycheck to paycheck. We don't have a world that can actually listen to the media or the politicians or the leader, the corporations of the world, and make a different decision. They can't, because in fear, they want someone else to protect them. Yeah. And when we get to our samurai warrior, which is that vertical line of energy within us, and nobody tells us who we are anymore. We get to deal with reality from the chakras, okay, this is my reality. These are my resources. This is what I have. And going through all of those, that then changes the whole paradigm that we live within. But until people really know who they are, we can all just go get different jobs, but it's all going to be the same thing, right? We can change to an online job, an online business, but it comes down to, what are we really sharing? And how many super creative people are pretending that they're, like I was, an achiever, or a leader that has to make good money or do this sort of thing. And my gift was this, right? How many gifts in the world are we by the nature of all the women who are leaders and achievers, not leading or achieving, but just caretaking the family? We need to make sure that everybody's doing their job from here on in, because there's these 5 soul qualities, and these aren't just human behaviors. These are soul qualities. That's why the Enneagram and the DISC are great, but they're behaviors. They're behavioral. They're done by psychologists. This is an energetic truth, and you have a body that matches it. So this is what we want to, if I could change the world, I would say, as you sit home right now, which I just did for the last 30 days in a program that I just did, I would say, let's figure out what your chakras actually do, what they really are, and what they serve. And now, as you make your next choices in life, you serve the deeper self rather than the external world that's already told you who you're supposed to be.
Yeah. Oh, such good stuff. Yeah. And being an entrepreneur like we are. Yep. A lot of people were so misguided in the advice that's given on how to build businesses. Not just because most of it doesn't work for most people, but because it's all based on that go, push. Did you call 50 people before 8 a.m. and you big loser? Right. And on top of all the other modern lifestyle toxic issues, this adrenal fatigue is very real, and people living with it constantly don't know any different. In fact, I don't know if you see this, but I see this in my clients and students, that when they actually do relax and let that go, drop into who they are, they feel good. Then the doubter or the fear comes up, like, oh, if I feel this good, something bad's going to happen, or it'll get taken away.
Or how will I ever make a living? How will I ever make a living like this? Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's a great quote. There's a Buckminster Fuller, who's brilliant genius. He says that he has a theory that I totally agree with, that out of 10,000 people, there's one in that group that will create something so amazing and so valuable that one person for every 10,000 can support all the other 10,000 to live at whatever level they need to live at, to then produce their great their greatness. But when we teach people, which is all school does, all of our schooling, all it does is tell us we have to get a job.
Yeah.
You know, or grow up and be a good mom, or be whatever it is. But it's always going to be a job. It's going to be, we have to be something other than who we are. It's not good enough. And I look at the world, and we have all of these leaders and achievers running every corporation, running every government, running everything, and looking at the deep feelers and the creative people and the and the caretakers as less than.
Yeah.
And so what do they say? They say, so the line is, hey, I made it. Why don't you make it? Because the reality is that you gotta have a chakra for money. You have to have a money chakra. And 3 out of the 5 profiles, that means more than half the people on the planet don't have the chakras to make money. And so these people that are 100 billionaires are hoarding all this money, when if they understood the spiritual context of what the world is supposed to be, those people are supposed to be supporting all the others, and they don't. They say, well, you could make it the same way. No, no matter what I do, you're going to have already used it up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because that's your job. That you have a chakra for that. But what you haven't learned is that if all 5 profiles, all these 5 types of people aren't supported equally in the world for what their mission is, the world can never come together around anything.
Mm.
Because we end up having these leaders and these achievers who have no reason to share power,
Yeah.
dominating, because this pandemic hasn't hurt them at all.
Oh no, people are making money hand over fist.
They're making money hand over fist. If you have the money, you're going to make money on this. The stock market, when it drops like that, now the billionaires made more billions.
Oh yeah.
So they have no reason. They're in all the government positions. Why would they ever share with a nice person? You know, why would they ever share with like a soft, loving, caring person, right? Why would I ever do that? I'm gonna hold my position. I'm gonna get it. And I'm gonna do that. So until it has to get a lot worse before it gets a lot better. I think that, you know, that the bulk of the people on the planet don't think like these leaders and achievers do.
Right.
And when they are willing to vote with what they feel, rather than vote out of fear, which is what the media teaches, I think that's going to make the biggest difference. And we can't get there. You know, I do it in my school. I have 150 students a year going through, and I'm creating people that can think for themselves, and not just think for themselves, but honor that each of these 5 qualities are soul qualities, and we all have all of them. Of course, we all have a little bit of each one of them, but honoring the soul quality in somebody is really the essence of what we're here to do. And to realize that there are not just 5 groups of people, but inside of that, there are millions, hundreds of millions of specific ways that comes out in the world. And God knows, if we had a president that was an emotional intelligence specialist, what would happen? Right?
Yep.
Right. Every day we'd get up and we'd pray and we'd have this, we'd take a minute, the president would come on in the morning and say, hey, everybody, just go to your heart, feel how wonderful it is to be a loving person. Now go out and share that in the world and give everything you have to the people in the world, to the others in the world. You know, what would happen? But we can't get there until enough of the people that are voting make those types of votes for people that actually have that kind of power. So.
Yeah, break that. Well, one thing that's interesting to me is that the Earth has chakras, right?
Yep.
And the crown chakra is in Sweden. And you notice that Scandinavian countries that barely have a lockdown, and their government runs for the good of the people. And they have a completely different way of doing life, and they're very successful. They don't have a lot of crime. You can see that the energy of that area is reflected in how they govern, how they work together, and how they live. And they have a community type of countries that think about everyone instead of me, like we see now,
Yeah.
but we are in the age of transparency, and boy, the veils are coming off, and we're seeing the hideous underbelly of who and what is really running things. And
Yep.
of course, just being able to see that isn't changing anything, but everything else is definitely shifting. So,
Yeah.
wow, this is so cool.
Yeah.
I
So
can
we're,
talk to
so
you
it's,
forever.
I think, the bottom line, we got into sort of like the neo-politics, but the reality is that the world doesn't change until people change individually. If you don't do the inner work and you don't get involved in doing that deeper sort of sense, it's very difficult not to let the outside world tell you who you are. Because if you're not so sure and you gave it up as a child, where we had to give up sort of like, oh, I'm a boy, that means I don't get to play with dolls. No, you don't. There's a whole set of rules for boys, a whole set of rules for girls that eliminate a whole bunch of who you are. And
Yeah.
as we lose contact with ourselves, then we have to ask the outside world who we are. So I don't know who I am anymore. Keep telling me, keep telling me, keep telling me. And then we become adults where the outside world tells them who they are based on who they vote for, based on who they're, what business they're in or what they're, and it's like, and at some point and the thing about finding out who you are, people are always like, well, if I found out who I am, wouldn't everything change? It's like, no, you'd probably go do the same job, but you just do it from a different place. You do it you bring your real self to that job. That's what I found when I started doing energy work and I went to 4-year training in energy medicine. And about 2 years into it, I was so sure I'd leave my job. I was working at a country club, running this big country club, and I was like, God, this is just soulless work. And then I realized after 2 years of doing the course that I had never brought my real self to the job. Not one day had Reese ever shown up. I brought a lie.
Yeah.
And that lie can never feel comfortable where they are. I couldn't, even though I was presenting like this guy that I knew I was, and I was so solid. I so knew who I was. I was absolutely that person. And so that was the the bridge for me where I realized, oh my God, how many people are going to work and bringing the wrong person, and bringing something that they aren't really. So, but the same thing, how many people are heading out in the world to change the world from a perspective of who I'm supposed to be rather than who I really am? Because that who you really are is like a domino effect. If I'm standing in who I am and owning this crazy Reese thing that I am, every person I interact with will realize, oh my God, it's okay to be crazy. It's okay to be who you are. It's just okay. And that's what we haven't been taught.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. All right. So I know we got to wrap up here. So.
Oh my gosh, it's so good though. I love it. And I was thinking about my kids and how I raised my kids, and even had my own school in the beginning before my divorce so that I could, manage to give them a different perspective than, especially in America, our school system is based on the Germanic system of producing factory workers and military people and people who are intelligent and functional but follow the rules. And so they took out all the creativity and the music and the art and, making people crazy with it. And so, but that's breaking down too. I actually have 3 clients and 2 friends who during this pandemic have decided, why should I send my kids back to school? I'm homeschooling anyway. We're getting closer. We're having more fun. They're happier. They're learning more easily. So all kinds of amazing stuff happening right now. Well, nice. Share with us how people can find you and tell us a little bit about the special gift that we're going to share with people.
Okay. So one of the gifts that you get when you really do a lot of this inner work, like you and I have done over a lifetime, is that you get certain connections to different guides, angels, and you get your information from the field, because there's an infinite amount of wisdom from the different dimensions, from different things. And so one of the cool things that one of my early trainings was with first he first came to me as the King of Atlantis, and then he came to me as Hermes, and then finally he said, I'm Thoth. I was like, oh geez, that was so 4 years of developing that. And so right behind you is the Thoth, who was the King of Atlantis, was Hermes, was sort of like those were the embodiments, the metaphor, the energetic embodiments of this wisdom. And of course, that wisdom is infinite. And so, but each of us get a little piece of it. And in that training, I had to learn how to create light. So it was like, and it took me about probably, God, at least 2 years of every day going in and disciplining, going into a dark room and creating light, creating light. And as I developed that skill of creating light so I could see what was in the room. So this was sort of like a mystery room that also had all kinds of gifts for me in it, but I couldn't see any of it because it was pitch black. I had to expand that, that light. And then at the end of it, I realized that what I was able to do was create rooms, temples, a temple, a place where the light is more solid, which was actually what Thoth created the temples for. The central chamber was literally that light gathering chamber from above and below, and creates that amazing healing room and transformational room and transcendent room. So and so what I've been doing over the years is just for my school, just in the school, on the last weekend of the year when we're up in chakra 6 and 7, I create a temple of light for the students so that they can, at that point, get up there and really realize that the light is more real than they are, right? So the light is where they come from, rather than I'm here and the light's out there. It's like, no, the light's in here. And so what I decided in April was that since this is such a powerful, and people get, totally, massive transformation in their lives, synchronicities happen afterward. They heal something like instantaneously. It's incredible things happen in the temple, in the light, because this light is so high frequency. And when you step into it, you are literally lifted into that frequency. And so what I've been doing since April for the people that are stuck at home, pandemic, or the people that are sick, is I create a temple on Sunday, every Sunday at 12 noon Eastern time. And for about, I do like a short guided meditation for folks, just to sort of get them into place for about 10 minutes. And then for about 20 minutes or 25 minutes, we just sit in the temple. And you just allow yourself to just be carried. And people get visions. People that don't see colors, they see colors. All of a sudden, their spiritual gifts start manifesting. And it's those spiritual gifts that are really what they're here to do in the world. And so at this time of transformation, this is my gift. And to get there, to sign up for it, it's a Zoom room, and there is limitations to the Zoom. So sometimes we hit our limit, but we have been buying bigger and bigger rooms. You go to 4dhealing.com. So 4 with a capital D, healing.com/temple.
And we'll have, if this video or audio, whatever you're listening to, we'll have the link below it. We'll have it in the email as well for you. So
perfect. So and that's my gift. That's sort of my gift at this time. And it's also, it's something that I always kind of like coveted for the students, and didn't share. I'd share it like every now and then. I do it at one of my live events because it's so sacred, so powerful. And yet I was realizing, why don't I just make it available to everybody? And so I create a big temple, and energetically, when you sign up, when you click onto Zoom, you're going to be automatically sort of inducted into that, into the temple. And what you get is calling you to your purpose. And it's not going to be anything that I've ever experienced. It's something that you're here to get and understand about yourself. So it's a great opportunity to sort of heal something deep within you, connect with something amazing, and transform yourself. Get a great spiritual experience in the middle of maybe the chaos that's going on around here.
Yeah, all right. And then where do they find out about your school?
So the Rhys Thomas Institute is RHYS, Rhys Thomas Institute.com. They can check that out. And there's, you just go to the website and check that out. Or if you do rhysthomasinstitute.com/class, CLASS, that'll take you right to the page that talks about the school.
Okay, good. And we'll have that everywhere for people to get. So, this is so good. I don't want to end it. What would you like to share with us as a closing?
Just like we were doing with the chakras there, we just did the first chakra. And anybody who's listening to this and did that, that was a miracle. That was a miracle. So you put your brain down in the down in your butt, right? And you felt, and then you looked around, and you got information that didn't come from your brain. That's a miracle. We are miracles, and we're being taught, we're being treated like we're cattle. And you have to take back your power as a magician, as a miracle maker, because you are. And when those chakras talk, when that life purpose line holds that ground, when that soul energy expands and your body responds to all those things, you're a change maker in the world. You will impact people in a way that no job you could ever get could ever do. You do it. You're a miracle. You're the miracle you need to bring to the world.
I love it. Thank you so much. Oh, what a blessing. I appreciate you. I'm so glad we know each other. I'm so honored to be here in this moment with you. And thank you so much for everything you shared today.
Thank you, Nan. You're awesome. So glad you're doing this.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Let's take a moment and close our eyes and bring all this yummy energy and send it down into the planet. So let's just send it down, send some love, send some gratitude for this moment, for Reese, for his work, for everything that you've been realizing and opened and revealed today. And let's just fill up Gaia with gratitude and love. Good. And now let's just see it expanding out, up through her core and the dirt and the roots and the water, the trees, the animals, the people, up through you, out, up to the clouds, the sun, the moon, the stars, and beyond. Wonderful. So please share this with as many people as you can and keep moving forward on your awakening. Take every little step and don't judge yourself. Understand if this is all new to you, it's okay. I was overwhelmed in the beginning too. If you're on your path and you've gotten some new ahas or some things stirred up and some resistance came up from what you learned today, good. Pay attention to it, accept it, see what it's trying to say to you, talk to it, like Rhys said, and allow yourself to relax. This is a moment. We're all in it together. It's going to be okay. And whatever comes out is going to be different. So really do that work to let go of who you thought you were, what you had to be, how much money you had to make, what status you had to have, or if you're a failure because you made it all and lost it many times like I did. This is the moment for birthing a new you and a new earth. So I want to just leave you with a beautiful Mayan greeting. In la quech, a la kin, you are another me, I am another you. We are one. Have a beautiful and blessed day.